get the videos here so I can see the PowerPoint.
And I'm going to have to scroll through a couple of slides to characteristic 6 and put it in slideshow mode.
Yeah, quick, so they can't see the answers.
Oh, I didn't do it. Okay. All right.
And let me get this over on my screen. I was rearranging things in the video as we were chatting. So let me get the PowerPoint slides here in front of me. For sure. Okay. Because I don't need to see the video of myself. All right. Okay. Well, this is just a quick recap of the last 2 days. Is that, you know, we went through on the first day some of the tools, you know, on, you know, how we'll work together as a team, you know, what behaviors within our team will, you know, how we'll act. We talked a lot yesterday about developing that shared purpose, a very important characteristic. And then we went on.
Excuse me, Kathy. There's some feedback, so give me a minute. I'm gonna mute everyone and then unmute you.
Okay.
You are?
I'm working on it. And okay.
Okay. And then we presented yesterday how we'll structure our team meetings to be effective. We started a bit of a discussion on the decision-making process. We've got some videos, some exercises, as Jane mentioned, that, you know, we can do. We'll defer that till tomorrow and jump right to resolving conflict. Because, you know, as I'm sure you guys have had the experiences, you get a group of people together, and when you're set on a particular action, sometimes everybody does not agree. So you have to have tools in your toolbox that will allow you to effectively resolve that conflict. So let's kind of do a little interactive thing here. Let's complete these statements. You know, what do you think conflict is?
I just unmuted everyone.
Okay. Conflict is?
So in the PowerPoint I'm looking at, these are already filled out. It says conflict is inevitable.
You're so smart, Kristen. Okay.
Hey, got that.
Yeah, it's actually animation, Kristen. So, Jane, conflict is, go for it. Is it, oh, are you having problems advancing? It's inevitable. Okay, great. Okay. Okay, and then within small conflicts, or the small groups, conflict.
Avoid conflict.
Avoid conflict.
All right.
Amazing. And then when conflict is avoided within groups, it will wind up festering and escalating.
Ooh.
Have you guys experienced some of that, where if you don't address it right away, then it will wind up festering?
It's more in a
Always
marriage.
does.
Yeah, it always does, you know, and I think this is, resolving that conflict is even more important as we talk about smaller companies too, because there's fewer people that you have the option of having a choice to work with. You're just assigned to a team. So if it's not resolved, then it will fester and escalate. Okay. So within small groups can benefit and learn from their conflict. So understanding and having some tools to resolve that conflict and reflecting back as a team, you can benefit and learn from those. So one, avoid conflict when it occurs, and two, in order to resolve that conflict when it occurs. And then learning from conflict requires, this is the big one, patience and persistence. You know, we as individuals are not, we're conflict averse, most of us, okay? And we can get very defensive on things. So in order to have and utilize tools for conflict resolution, we have to be patient and persevere on utilizing and executing them. So now from here, we have an exercise in the handout. So if you can go to your handout, exercise 10, okay? And on this exercise, this is a great one, a great tool to bring into your team. It's on page 10. To go through periodically and have a discussion with your team about how the team resolves conflict. Now, what I'd like you to do, and we're all going to do this, all 5 of us, we're going to go through this, and we'll do it individually. Think of a team that you are part of, and I'd like you to rate your team on how they handle conflict. So like the first one is that we regard conflict as a healthy, normal part of being a team. Do you agree with that statement or disagree with it?
Agree.
Okay.
Well, let's
Let's
do it
go
in,
through independently and let's fill this out. And how does a team you're part of?
Circle the number that corresponds to whether you agree. So if you agree, it's a 3. And then we're going to end up adding all of them.
Okay, when you're finished, give a thumbs up.
Kat, did you want us to calculate our total?
Yeah, if you can add your score together and come up with a total at the bottom. And then for this learning exercise, what we'll do is we're going to take all of our scores and kind of group them together. We'll kind of be simulating that we're a team because I want to show you how this tool works.
You want me to be the calculator here?
Yeah, I've got it. I got a calculator, got my calculator.
There, I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Let us know, Kristen and Edwin, how you're doing.
I'm done.
You're okay? Okay, Kristen?
Yep.
Edwin, you got it? Is that a thumbs up? Super.
Okay, so Edwin, what's your score? Is he muted?
No.
Are you there, Edwin? We lost you.
Edwin, can you hear us?
Thumbs up if you can hear us. I think we lost. Oh, now he's muted.
Hey, Edwin.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Edwin? Sometimes this will happen.
I'll send him a chat.
Okay, that's what I was going to attempt to do. All right. All right. Well, while that's trying to be resolved, Kristen, what did you come up with?
28.
28. Okay. Henry?
I chose a team from my last job, so I came up with 33.
Oh, fantastic. Jane?
I scored the team that we are have put together to bring our products virtual, and I scored it a 34.
Fantastic. Okay. Now, I reflected back on a team, and I guess I didn't. I was reflecting on a difficult team that I participated in, and I gave it actually a 16.
Woo!
Jeez.
Dragging us down, Kathy. Dragging us down.
Yeah.
Edwin.
Randolph.
You can't hear us? Can you hear us? Can you see the chat? I don't know how to fix the audio problem.
Neither.
Hey, that's a good ploy to stop participating.
Why don't we have him?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey,
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
all right, he's back.
What?
I put the headphone on and it messed up.
Oh, it was going through the headphones instead of going through the computer, so you couldn't hear. Okay.
And we couldn't hear you.
The old defective headphone trick.
Sorry about that.
I'll have to
Okay,
use that one next time.
Do you have an opportunity to do the exercise on page 10?
I'm on page 10.
And were you able to come up with add up your score for the 10 questions on conflict resolution?
Edwin.
I think we lost them again. Hello?
Edwin,
Yes, sir.
okay, that's a good sign. Can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you better. Can you hear me?
A little staticky.
To finish the exercise on page 10 of the handout on resolving conflict.
Yep.
And have you had an opportunity to total your score for the 10 questions?
I got 25.
25, okay.
So
Henry, our human calculator,
And calculator. I got 126 total.
okay? And there's 5 of us.
Yeah. So 25.2, so we round out to 26.
26, okay. As you can see on the bottom of it, under scoring instructions, what we did is we acted like we were all part of the same team. And each one of us, answered the questions as we thought our team was performing. So as a result, we kind of added up all the scores and then divided by the number of people who were in our team, which in this case was 5. And we came up with a team score of 26. So looking at the key on the bottom, we as a group here of the 5 of us are acting like a group. We're beginning to gel, but we're not truly in kind of what would be classified as a true team. Although we're really kind of on the middle of the road there, but we're getting better. Okay.
If we
Not a
move,
bunch of individuals sitting around the table. We're actually starting to gel. Some people talk about the different phases of forming a team. The storming, norming,
performing,
and
Storming,
performing.
forming,
Forming,
storming,
norming.
and performing.
And performing. So we're getting into that norming phase.
now, let me interject here. If we took Kathy out, we'd be a team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I reflected on a team that didn't work so well and didn't really resolve that conflict.
Which is fine. And, this is a little bit weird to do the exercise with people from 3 different companies in our case. But if you had 5 people that were on your team and you got an outlier like that, someone who scored a 16, that would be an opportunity to talk about it and debrief and figure out why their experience on the team is so poor compared to maybe the other people on the team. And so it's all about getting these issues out on the table, so that as you start to do your hard work of accomplishing things as a team, you don't have to fight each other.
And by understanding what the range of that you have within the team, it really provides some opportunity to focus in maybe on one or two that you're not quite aligned on, so you can work better as a team on resolving conflict. Because especially in small companies, if you don't resolve that conflict, it will fester, and it may turn out to be, much bigger than what you had originally thought or intended. So, and it can take a lot away from your team. So it's a very important factor of trying to resolve conflict. Okay. Any questions? You all clear on that? Can you see how you can use that as a tool?
Yeah.
Have you ever used a tool like this before in any of your team meetings?
No.
Team
No.
you're part of?
That's why you're here.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's some learning moments that we're hoping to convey upon you, is to give you some of those tools, because your experiences are not unsimilar to some of the ones we've had, where you're assigned to a team or you join a team and you wonder why the team's not performing, and some of these things don't come out, which could really help having a very fruitful discussion to make you a high performance team. And I believe in one of the vision statements, somebody had that they wanted to work on a high performance team.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's a tool that perhaps you could help you get there. All right, now I'd like to introduce you to another tool that can help resolve conflict. Okay. It's a 5-step tool, and basically the tool is, one, if there's a conflict within your team, the person that with the conflict explains to explains the problem as objectively as possible, and then shares why it needs to be resolved from their personal perspective. So they'll explain their perception of what the problem is. And then step 2, the other person that they're giving that to will provide them some feedback on what they heard and explain their point of view. Okay, then it will go on to phase 3. Okay, can you?
Oh, that's me.
Yep.
Sorry.
Okay, all right. All right, and if there's not agreement on what the problem is, okay, so what you want here is you want to get an agreement on the problem that the originator started with, the person they were giving it to's feedback, an agreement on what the definition of what that problem is. If they don't get that agreement, then you really want to go back and have both parties explain their point of view until they come to an agreement. And then once they have that agreement, then they can proceed to step 4, which is really to explore what opportunities and alternatives the two of them together can mutually agree to that can resolve this conflict. Okay, and that could be a back and forth discussion as well. And then once they agree upon a solution for their problem, then they really want to review that solution for confirmation that on that agreement, and then set some timetable on when they're going to come back and talk about it again to ensure that that conflict is resolved, ensure it doesn't continue to even fester further. Okay, now if we can proceed to the next slide, Jane. And you have this in your handout, and this is basically the steps that I went through on the 5 phases. Now, when you utilize this tool, it's probably best if you kind of bring up to the person that you're having the conflict with what 5-step process that you're going to utilize is kind of a pre-step, so they aren't kind of mystified on what you're trying to do with them. Okay, and the more you practice this, the better you'll become at it. Okay, so as an illustration of how this works, what we'd like to do is do a little role play. Okay, and I guess from here I'll turn it over to Jane and Henry, who are going to role play a scenario regarding cell phones in the shop. So Jane, Henry, you're on.
And Edwin, just to let you know, you were having some staticky when you put your headphones on, so I've muted you, but unmute yourself at any time. And if we were in real life, we would ask you as participants to do a little role play so that you're not observing, but you're actively participating in a skill development, but didn't really know how to do that in the virtual world. So Henry nor I are actors, so bear with our acting skills. So I'm going to introduce you. I am a team. I'm a team leader in a manufacturing company, and my team is a highly technical department. So we're really highly technical. We're a highly skilled team. We do work that very few other people in our whole company can do. And you know, as I don't have the luxury that Kristen does. I'm not really on the shop floor a lot. I'm not really in my department. I get called into my bosses for meetings. I have to meet with sales. I've got engineering meetings. And every time I walk back out onto the shop floor, Henry, as he is now, is on his cell phone. And it really aggravates me because we're not here to play Candy Crush or whatever that game is. We're here to do work. And he's always on that cell phone. And as soon as he sees me, he puts it down and he scurries back to work. And I am just really frustrated. And I'm also worried that he's a really technical guy in my department, and other people are going to follow his lead as a role model. And our productivity is going to suffer. And safety is going to be impacted too. So I've decided that I have a conflict, and I need to bring it to his attention. So you got the backdrop here. That's the setting of the scene. So now I'm going to talk to Henry about this. So walking back into the department, Henry, you got a minute?
Yeah, sure.
You want to step over into my office and have a little chat? So
All right, sure, absolutely, no problem.
I just recently went to a training course with the MassMEP, and there's this process I want to try to work through because I'm having an issue, and it's a 5-step process, but it starts with me explaining where I'm coming from, and so it seems to me every time I walk back into the department, you're on your cell phone and you've got work on your workbench that's not being addressed, and you're on your cell phone, and it's really aggravating to me, and something needs to change.
You mean me?
Yeah.
Wait, whoa.
Yes.
All right, gee, I don't think so. I mean, I don't notice that personally. I don't, I'm one of the better people on the team, I think, but I don't think I'm on the phone all that much. Why do you say that?
So I know it's my perception, but I'm not in the department all that often, and when I do return to the department, it just seems that more often than not, your eyes are down, you've got your cell phone down, and it's pretty obvious that you're texting to me. And that's worrisome because you are a very technical person, and people might start to follow your lead.
Ooh. All right, well, I didn't think it was that bad. I do have a couple of issues at home, or one specific issue at home with the family, one of my children. So, I have texted just to make sure that, you know, they're not really in trouble or anything, make sure they're still in school. I don't think it's all that often.
So I think we have an agreement. I think we can agree that there's an issue here that we should resolve.
Yeah, I don't, yes, I can understand that you've seen that I've been on texting my child.
So the next step, I said it was a 5-step process. The next step is to try to come up with solutions that would be acceptable for both of us. So this is like brainstorming, just throwing out ideas. So I guess one of my ideas, Henry, is that, you know, one of my concerns is that people are going to follow your lead. So an idea, I'm just throwing it out there. It doesn't have to be agreed to, but what if we get the team together and just say, this is extraordinary circumstances, and you're going to see Henry on his cell phone more, but just put it out in the open. So get a team meeting together.
We can do that. I would prefer the actual problem not be highlighted to the team, but that's not a bad idea to do. One of the things that I've thought about is, you know, if I need to do that, if I have a need to check in with home, one of the things I can do is I can walk outside into the hallway.
Okay. I don't know. You know, you said that you don't think that you're on the phone that much, and I think you are. I don't know much about cell phones, but I think there's like a thing that you can track how much FaceTime you're doing, or how much screen time, I think it's called. So would you mind, like, if we just took a look at that, like every so often, and you could, and might, you know, it would change my perception if it's really low, and it would change your perception if it was really high. So look at the data. Just an idea.
That seems, looking at the data, that seems like a fair thing to do, because I don't think I am, but, you know, data is reality.
Yeah.
So we can do that. I'll do that.
How about, yeah, anything else?
No, I think that's a pretty good compromise, and that'll tell us if there really is a bad problem, and it'll tell you if there isn't a bad problem.
But you know, before we have that data, I'd sort of like to get the team together, because I don't want them.
That's fair.
Okay. So if I recap, what I think we should do is, you know, our next regular team meeting, when we're just talking about other stuff, I'm just going to bring up, you know, first of all, we don't really have a cell phone policy, but at this particular time, Henry, and I want to mention you by name, has an issue that he needs to keep in contact with his family more frequently than normal. So as a team, we're going to support him in that. It's not, and then just leave it like that.
I think we can do that.
Okay, and then maybe like 2 weeks, we'll look at your cell phone data for 2 weeks.
That's a fair number.
So today's the 23rd. So, yep. So let's on May 8th, let's recap.
May 8th, I'll put it on my schedule.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put a Zoom invite together.
No goodie.
All right, Kath, I think that's the end.
Okay.
Oh, I meant to have this up when we were doing that. I'm so sorry.
So what did Kristen, what did you and Edwin think of this discussion and this role-playing exercise that transpired?
I liked it. I mean, I've it was a great topic, because I've seen that seen that happen here. So I like the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah. I like the way that at first, even though the two of you didn't agree, you circled back until you did come to at least a partial agreement of what the problem was.
Yeah. And it was, even though it was a role play, it was really hard for me to stay. Even though it's a role play, it was really hard for me to say, yeah, you are on your phone.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Hey, you ignorant.
Now.
Edwin, any thoughts on that?
Edwin, are you there?
We're not gonna do that again, Jane.
Yeah, I think we
Nah.
lost contact as well. Oh, he's unmuted. Let's unmute him. He was muted.
Yeah, I'm not doing that because we go back and forth. He's good. You're good?
Edwin, can you hear us?
No, he's moving his lips. He can't hear us. It's tough with the mustache seeing him move his lips.
You can hear us? Okay, we wanted your thoughts
we
on
can't
that
hear
role.
you.
No, we can't hear you.
No, we're sorry, we can't hear you.
Oh, he's got the chat going.
Oh,
That
okay.
was me.
Oh,
I'm asking him, do you hear?
you did.
Oh,
We can hear you now, Edwin.
Edwin, I think we got something. We have contact. His box came around. Are you there, Edwin?
Can you talk to us?
We can't hear you.
Well, why don't I answer for him? We did very well.
Well, as he's
Can
trying
you
to get
hear
that
me
resolved.
now?
Yeah,
There you
yeah,
go.
we got you now.
Oh, super.
Okay, I say that I did like that because I go through that all the time with
Yeah, that's
people
what
in the
Kristen
phone
said.
on the floor.
Yeah.
Okay, you can see though how Henry and Jane use this tool. Jane was very good at explaining what she was going to do to kind of make Henry aware of that she was launching into this problem-solving tool or conflict resolution tool. She clearly explained her perspective, what she observed. She made it very factual and very detailed. They proceeded then to Henry's phase, and as not unusual, Henry initially perhaps came across as a little defensive of, no, I'm not on my phone.
I'm still defensive. I was not on my phone all the time.
Not on my phone all the time. Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, he hesitated on really explaining what the real cause was. He had a family member he wanted to check in on. So because they didn't agree that there was a problem, it went back around to Jane again, explaining in step one what the situation was.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'm kind of, I don't know, can you see the PowerPoint? I'm kind of switching between the model, the overall model, and the individual steps where we were. So just trying to be your background, Kathy.
All right, super. Yeah, and you can see following these steps where they were at in the conversation. So after step two, the second time around, you know, Henry then agreed that yes, there was a problem with him being on his cell phone. Okay, so now that they had agreement, they could proceed now to the next step and on perhaps some solutions that could resolve the issue. Okay, Jane presented her options. Henry presented some out there. Henry, you know, on the initial one Jane presented, felt a little uncomfortable exposing some family issues he had when she suggested that they have a team meeting and explained that Henry had some issues. Okay, so that wasn't an acceptable alternative. So they tossed some more out until they came to an agreement that they would look at Henry's screen time to see just how big of an issue it was, because Jane's perception of what the issue was and Henry's perception of just how often he was on were not in alignment, although they did agree on what the problem was. Once they came to that resolution of the next step, then they proceeded to review it and set a firm timetable. And Jane, as you can observe, as they were going through it, she was also explaining the process, which helped Henry to understand it. And if you always use a 5-step process like this with folks, people will, you know, come to see what the flow of it is. And it can be very helpful in resolving that conflict.
Could you see yourself using this, especially since it was a cell phone issue? And
Yep.
Yeah.
good, good.
You've had
It's-
cell phone issues at your sites on the floor?
My last thing that I had to do, I had to put a small room that anybody needs to use a phone, that they can go and use the phone in there.
Ah, so it's a lot
Okay.
more obvious when they're leaving and using the phone. But you also,
Correct.
but you also give them
21st
the
century
privacy.
21st century version of the smoking room.
Oh, that's another good conflict we could do. You guys have any smokers?
Yes.
And do you
Like
ever
a
hear
rule
the
for
non-smokers say, I don't get as many breaks as the smokers? No?
Now, the cell phone is pretty good.
Yeah.
I used to work in a place that as people transitioned over from, you had a lot of smokers to just a few smokers, but then the non-smokers felt they weren't getting as many breaks.
Yeah.
So I had non-smokers who would go out to the smoking area when the smokers went out, and just to chit chat with them, because they felt that that was equitable. You know,
No, they all have break at the same time. You do
Oh.
when you break whatever you want to do, correct. So at 10 o'clock it's going to be ringing.
Yeah, it's going to be a
Yep.
bell again.
oh yeah, it's coming up on break time. We'll hear you. We always know what time it is with you, Edwin. Okay, so do you think this is a tool that you can use within your businesses to help resolve conflict?
Yes, definitely.
Good, good. It can be a very powerful tool.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess now we're going to really be going over to some of the self-assessments we can do as part of our team meetings, which is characteristic 7. And at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Henry, who's going to go through some of those with you.
Okay. So gone through most of characteristics 1 to 6. We kind
Most.
of bypassed a little bit of 5. So as your team starts to mature and interact and function, it's very important then to, on occasion, periodically evaluate the team. So kind of sit back and don't look at anything else but how your team is functioning. You want to focus on goals and also with the alignment with the team mission. So it's very important to kind of assess, is the team functioning properly? Is the team aligned still with our overall goals? And are we still headed towards the overall mission? We want to make sure that we're still working cohesively as a team, as a group, as a unit. And then we also want to do a little self-assessment of ourselves, so we can also then further become better team members. And then we can then identify and correct any problems that exist before they really get out of hand and impact our team progress. There's a couple of tools that we have here that are good for assessing where your team is. One is called the Team Progress Indicator, and the second is the Team Member Self-Assessment Survey. So these are pretty good prescriptive, step-by-step, bulletized assessments of different characteristics of a team that we all use to rate our team's progress, and then how we can do a little self-reflection. So let's go to the exercises, I think on page 11 and page 12. And why don't we all take a minute and think of the last team that we were on. So the team that you rated how well we were doing. Go through this progress indicator with each of the nine characteristics of a team. So take a few minutes, go to action items, decisions, conflict resolution, participation, communication, key project indicators, roles, reward and recognition, and then anything that you feel is important that we've missed. So take a couple minutes to do that. Maybe one full Jeopardy song, not the 10 hours.
Okay, let me go find it.
I didn't.
I only see the question 1 to 2.
One more time, Edwin.
I only see the question 1, 2.
Okay.
Oh, do you have your paper handout?
We're looking at page 11,
Right, okay.
which is characteristic 7, self-assessments, team progress indicator. There's a header on it.
Like the first one, action items.
Did you find it, Edwin?
Yeah,
Okay.
Completed on time or tend to slip. So if everything's completed, you put a box on the left-hand side. If everything tends to slip, all the action items, put the box on the right-hand side.
Sorry.
And Jane, are you going to keep track of the results
Yeah,
by the green arrow? I love that.
yeah, a little check mark. Yep. I'm doing it now. You wanted me to do it too, right?
Yeah,
That would be
please.
good. If we
Please.
can kind of just mark one up maybe with some check marks.
And when you finish, give a thumbs up.
Oh, look at you, fancy.
Make it a-
Oh, gosh.
I can't do that because I'm a co-host or something. I can't do that. I have to do it this way.
Oh.
Right?
Well, you named Henry and I co-hosts, and yet I do it.
Yeah, I don't have the reaction thing. Thumbs up from Edwin. So I think we're good to go.
All right.
Let's
Now-
start with Edwin. Got yours done, Edwin? Can you tell us what your score was on action item?
Edwin, you need to unmute yourself.
Three? Right there?
sorry, 3. Yes.
Yeah.
Jane?
4.
Kristen?
2.
2?
Right
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Kathy?
I said 2.
Okay.
And I said 2.
Okay.
All right.
3.
Follow-up not required,
Got it.
or we need to send out repeated reminders.
3.
Edwin, 3?
Jane's a
Jane?
2.
Kathy's a 2.
Kristen's a
Kristen?
3.
Oopsie.
3.
3. In the middle of the road. Okay.
And I'll go 3.
Edwin?
All right. So decisions. Do we make good quality decisions, or do we have, in general, or do we have to go back and revisit some?
I say 3.
I got a 3.
3.
Kristen got a 3. I gave it a 1.
Good quality. Yep.
You must be talking about our team of 3 here. And I'm going to go with 3.
Okay.
All right.
Uh-oh.
You all right?
I'm gonna have I can't scroll down.
Oh,
because the check marks are going to all stay there.
All right.
So
Well,
how about if we just talk about the top three?
let's finish up participation
Yeah.
because I think we can all see that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So decisions. Are the appropriate people involved in the decision, or are some people left out?
Edwin,
2.
appropriate. I'm a 1. 1.
I gave it a 1.
Henry.
2.
Well, that's pretty good.
All right.
Conflict.
Conflict.
Oh, it's 10 o'clock.
Oh, 10 o'clock. Break time. Look at my time. Break time.
Break time. Break time.
And everyone will be back in 15 minutes.
All right.
We'll get another bell in 15 minutes. Yeah. Edwin hit his break there.
All right. So conflict resolution. Are conflicts resolved immediately, or do they end up suffering from outside team campaigning?
Edwin,
I say 2.
I got a 1 on that. 2.
I gave it a 4.
Henry.
4?
Yep.
Okay. You said 4 too, Henry?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Conflicts resolved. Oh, sorry.
Conflicts, I can read it too. Conflicts resolved satisfactorily, or conflicts are creating hard feelings.
What do you got, Edwin?
I got 2. 2.
I got a 1. 1.
I gave it a 3.
Henry.
2?
Okay.
All right, so we're participation. Are we fully contributing or only on occasion?
I give it 3.
1. What'd you get, Edwin?
3.
3.
3.
2. 2.
Jane, 2. Kathy, 1.
No, that was Kristen was a 2.
Kristen,
I
2.
gave it a 4. 5.
All right, I'm going with a 2. All right. So had we completed the full list, then we would kind of look for the ones that have the greatest difference or spread of opinion. So in this case, looks like the full.
What the heck was that?
What?
What?
That was my cell phone.
Sounds like a baby.
It sounds like a kid.
Becky,
It made me laugh.
I'm looking at this. Becky joined us.
That's what I thought.
So the goal here then is to look at the disparity and focus on the ones with the greatest difference of opinion. So, action items followed up not required, 2s and 3s. That, that's, to me, a 2 and a 3, that's not really worth discussing any further. The decisions, that's not really worth discussing any further. But when you start to look at participation, you've got 2 2s, a 3, and a 5.
I don't think we had a 5. I think mine was a 1. I think it got recorded as a 5.
No, I gave it a 5.
Oh, you gave it a 5. Okay.
So inside joke. So yeah, you would discuss that spread, and I was just being funny because
Giving a good example, huh, Jane?
when I lead our co-team with Henry and Kathy, and Henry pisses me off, I put him in the waiting room so he can't participate. So that was an inside joke. But just to demonstrate, that would be the issue that, like Henry said, that would be the progress indicator that you would discuss. The other thing that you would discuss is if everybody was rating it on the poor end of the scale. You'd want to talk about how are we going to recover. Like if everybody had, instead of like on this decisions right here where everyone rated it, everybody's appropriately involved. If everybody had rated it over here, then that would be something to talk about. So if I scroll down to the other progress indicators, these marks will stay with me. So I think you've got a use of the tool. Do you want to go further, or you think that's a good?
Well, if we were on one team, I think it would make sense to go further. But where we're on different teams, so this is not really an accurate assessment, we probably ought to move on.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
You guys good with that?
Yep.
Okay.
But you can see all of the categories that we've talked about are kind of covered on here. So again, it's a good tool to use to incite conversation within your team.
So to Jane's point, if you're all tended towards the poor side, then obviously that really requires some soul searching from an individual perspective. And then if you've got, wide disparity, why do some people feel one thing and some people feel the other? That's the other area where you would want to address. So the low ones need to be addressed, and the ones with the disparity need to be addressed.
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
All right, so let's head back to the,
I think we stay here.
yeah, we go over to the page 12. So, especially when you've got a team that's not really performing well, it's important to conduct what we call the self-assessment. And if you look at the handout on page 12, and this really, in general, is you want to keep this keep it to yourself, because this is more personal. So the survey here provides a benchmark to making adjustments necessary to becoming a better team member. So this is you're rating yourself. So you answer the questions by rating yourself on each one from poor to excellent. So one being poor, 5 being excellent, and kind of do a self-reflection on where you feel you are as a team member. So take a Jeopardy song and fill us out. Shouldn't take maybe even half the Jeopardy song. Thumbs up when you've aired your personal dirty laundry. All right, Jane's ready. Kathy, Edwin? All right, so we're all ready. So as a general rule, you want to keep this to yourself, but just for the training perspective, anyone want to share some of the personal issues that you have in front of the team? And you don't really have to if you don't want to. So Edwin, I'll go with you first. Anything that you feel that you're very good at, or something that you feel you do need work on?
I say number 3.
Number 3. So do you encourage others at work?
That's a strength.
Are you good at that, or do you need improvement?
I think I'm pretty good on listening.
So you're a 5-3, a 4-3?
I said 3.
All right. So 3 times 3, that's a 9. Not that we really do it that way.
So I'll share. I'll share, Henry. I rated myself on focus, number 2, the category number 2. I gave myself a 1. I'm having being an on-site facilitator, I'm having a real hard time in this virtual world of staying focused. But I wanted to let Kristen and Edwin know that, having your high level engagement and, your positive feedback that this is good stuff for you has really encouraged me. So thank you.
Oh, great.
Kathleen, anything to share?
I think I'm responsive and open to new ideas, but I'm not as technically competent as I'd like.
So it's just, it's just a way to self-assess and like kind of take a mirror to yourself. You could being a good team member. So.
Right, and
Yes, I'd like to share as well. I did the self-assessment, and I've recently had some conflict that I don't think I've done a very good job of resolving effectively. So if you'd asked me this question a month ago, I would have given myself a hard meeting. I would say that, and perhaps it's due to the isolation that I currently feel, is that perhaps I can do some improvement on resolving conflict more effectively and practicing the 5-step model that we talked about.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thanks, Kathy.
And where I sit, going kind of what Jane was talking about, am I focused? I'm a 2, if not a 1 or a 2, maybe a 1.8. During some of these team meetings, I kind of lose track, and I end up being put into the waiting room. And it's not humiliating, maybe embarrassing.
All righty.
All right, so why don't we then move on back to the PowerPoint?
Can you see the PowerPoint now?
Yes. All right, so a couple of other of the tools to help your team do self-assessment is the team morale chart, and then the housekeeping, a specific housekeeping meeting. So we would flip down. So the team morale chart, it's a good pictorial. It's a good pictorial tool to reflect on the team's recent history as well as address future expectations. It's a good visual, and you'll see in a moment how a good visual tool it really is. And then it also helps the team pinpoint changes and some potential events that can negatively and or positively affect the morale. So if we go to exercise 13, it'll kind of explain it all fairly well.
Oopsie, scrolled down too much, sorry.
That's okay. So what we're going to do is reproduce the following chart, not necessarily on a flip chart because we don't have a flip chart. So we're going to put the visual in the middle of the screen, and we're going to have each of you graphically portray where they feel the team morale was early, and as a benchmark 3 months, and then also where it is today, and then where you expect it to be or anticipate it or hope it to be 3 months from now. So Jane, why don't you then go down to there. So we're from, can you shrink it just a bit so you can see the bottom? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep, that's good. That's good.
Go.
That's very good.
That's what you want?
Yep, that's exactly that's perfect.
Okay.
So on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being you're not having any good, you're not successful, 10 being very successful, there are three areas or columns that we're gonna fill out as to where you feel your team morale is. I'll go first.
Well, give him a sec. Give him a sec. Do you understand the instructions? So think back 3 months ago. You know, beginning of January. How do you think your team was today? And 3 months from now would be midsummer.
And then where you are now.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
it's over.
It's over.
So morale just went down.
Okay, you ready, Henry?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay.
At the beginning, I was thinking we were a 4.
3 months ago, right here,
Yeah.
ish. I used the heart for Henry.
All right. Now I think we're about a 6.
Whoa.
And I expect we should be able to get up to be 7.5 to 8, give or take.
Roughly there.
Yeah, good enough.
Who wants to go next? Edwin.
I say 5.
3 months ago?
Yeah.
Look at you, you're a star.
I say 6.
So right what Henry said.
So 3 months from now, let's see if we make it to 8.
Okay, up here where he is. Okay. Kristen?
So actually 3 months ago, I'd say we were more of a 6, and now we're probably a 5 or a 4. Unfortunately, just because there's so much uncertainty right now. So I hope, and things have slowed down with sales. So I hope we can boost morale, even if we aren't able to boost sales in the next 3 months. I hope we can still boost them.
So where would you in 6 months?
I hope we're back to a 6.
A 6. Okay. Kathy?
Yeah, I would say 3 months ago, probably 7.
Okay, so sort of up here.
Yeah. I think now, based upon the current situation, probably a 5. And then 3 months from now, trying to leverage and use some of the tools, I'd probably put it in an 8.
That's what these guys are at. And I got one more symbol to use. And for me, 3 months ago, I was on site working with clients. Life was good. Now I'm sitting at home with my dog. And I'm up here. I think yeah. So just 3 months ago, I was on site. I was doing stuff. I was with my clients, really engaged. Now this isolation is really drawing down my energy, and I think that creating some of these virtual tools and giving more options to people. Like Edwin, where are you physically?
Where I'm from?
No, what town are you in right now?
Fitchburg.
Fitchburg. And Kristen, you're in Hudson, I think we said, right?
Berlin.
Berlin, but right next to Hudson. Yep.
Well, that's like an hour apart. Like, there's no way we'd have you two in the same room, right?
I actually live in Lunenburg, which is right next to Fitchburg.
Okay, so make a liar out of me.
Not again.
Yeah. So I just really encourage that. I think our organization is going to be able to provide more value to our clients. So,
yeah.
All right.
But and this is not unusual because we're not on the same team to see this sort of spread. But if we were on the same team, if you had an outlier, if like 3 of us were all, or 4 of us were all at one end of the spectrum, and someone said 3 months ago it was a 10, you'd have some conversations about why they felt that way.
Right.
Like where Jane is, Jane's rating us 1, and unfortunately, Jane, for the last, since we've been quarantined, has been working with Kathy and I quite frequently. I'm kind of taking.
Take it personal.
I'm taking this kind of personal. So we want to talk that out.
No, I mean, it's just the fact that we are in the roles that we're in is because we want to help people like you guys, Kristen and Edwin, have tools to get better and make their jobs easier and make their companies better. And talking internally is just, it just doesn't cut it for me. Besides, I don't really like Henry.
No.
Oh, did I say that out loud?
Now that's conflict that we would need to, sit back and resolve.
Kristen, don't look. I gotta do something again.
You guys ought to use that 5-step tool to resolve some of this conflict. So understand
Okay.
it.
You want me to clear?
Yeah, might as well move on.
Where we go? Going back to the
But you can
PowerPoint.
see
Back
how
to the
that tool
PowerPoint,
can be
please.
used, and you can actually track it as well. What Jane showed was 3 months ago, now, and in 3 months. But you can kind of look at that and maybe utilize it and say, okay, now at that 3-month mark, did we achieve this when we do another kind of survey of it? And do we want to set another one for 6 months from now? So, because team morale is very important. I mean, people and understanding how people are motivated, because it would help your team progress further in becoming that high performance workforce that was in the vision.
A team with low morale, and you end up with action items not being done. It's self-fulfilling prophecy here. All right, so let's move on to the next one. But you can see how that's a very, very good visual to put up in front of everybody to really see where you are as a group. And then, I don't know, there's a scheme of things called a housekeeping meeting where you really don't focus on the results of the team, you focus on how the team is functioning. So you end up calling it a housekeeping meeting once a month, every 6 weeks, every 2 weeks. It really depends on how the team is performing. So if it's performing well, you don't necessarily need to have it all that frequently. But if you're having trouble as a group, then you may want to increase the frequency of meetings. So meeting agenda, and this is a typical agenda, is kind of sit that and figure out, are we following our rules of the road? So you'd actually get out the rules of the road that you developed as part of characteristic 1. Are we challenging the negative norms? So the things that aren't going well, the negative norms that we looked at, I think in characteristic 2, are we working to address those? Then have our meeting assessments been positive? What you'd want to do is look at the meeting assessments and see if, early on they were fairly low compared to the more recent ones. That's where you want to complete the team progress indicator. And again, assess if we're improving as a team. Everyone is still going to complete that team member self-assessment. That way you can kind of look back on your first one and your more recent one. To really, this is all to track progress from the higher performing teams and you as individuals. And again, conduct the team morale chart, and you can show progress on that from previous team charts to the most recent ones. So the housekeeping, how often should a team conduct one?
I guess this animation is kind of useless again.
Yeah, well, maybe we shouldn't give this out ahead of time.
But they need to, I don't think, well, ask Edwin and Kristen, I don't think it would be very effective if you didn't have the paperwork and the PowerPoint in front of you.
No,
Right,
Maybe-
so you could have given us the PowerPoint, but just not had the animation filled in.
Yeah,
So that we could see it then in real time when you fill it in.
yeah, I made a note of that.
So again, as I mentioned earlier, how often do you meet? Typically, it's once a month, but depending on how effective your team is, you have it more frequently or less frequently. When should the team conduct one of these? And I won't ask Kristen, I'll just do it myself. It's generally during a specifically scheduled meeting. So you don't need to have a special meeting for this. Just if you meet once a week, then during one of your weekly meetings. Where should this be held? You want to hold this in private, just between you and the team members. It's because it's a kind of a personal event. Who should be present? All the team members, but only the team members. This is not where you would have the management champion, because you're trying to assess your feedback and trying to assess your team without any really outside influence. And then who leads the housekeeping meeting? That would be the current team leader. Ideally, you can rotate a team leader monthly, bi-weekly, however you chose to, or just leave the same leader. I don't recommend leaving the same leader, because then the team gets is under undue influence from the team leader. Sometimes that can be good, sometimes that can be bad. So that's something you want to address in your own team. So with that, we're done characteristics 1 through 7, bypassing some of 5. And with that, we'll turn it over to Kathleen, who's going to go over characteristic 8.
Okay, first off, is there any questions around characteristic 7? The housekeeping meeting, it can be a very useful meeting on helping, kind of just looking internally on how well your team is. We often are so focused on getting the task done and achieving the goal that we don't look internal to how the team is working. And in this whole initiative of trying to build a strong team, you want to take some kind of time to step back and make sure that everybody is on the same page, and you're moving forward and you're executing and utilizing the behaviors and rules that you set initially up for your team. Okay.
You're good. Thumbs up.
Okay. All right. Okay. Then we're going to move on to characteristic 8, which is really the organizational integration of the team. The teams have a mission and vision statement, and they must, actively do things that help them stay connected to the organization. Okay. Sometimes teams can drift when they're weak. Perhaps, new team members that are coming in, things have changed over time. They don't feel that they're necessarily empowered to achieve the goals that's been set out for them. Or sometimes on the opposite end of them, a team can be very strong. They almost become an entity of themselves, where they believe they can perhaps overstep some of the boundaries that they had set up originally. They've got a lot of confidence to them, and perhaps the team or the core team members can kind of drift because they're so strong. So you want to watch out for that, both on the weak side and the strong side. Sometimes a team can drift if a major success has been achieved. They were given a goal to do, they achieved that, and now this is our opportunity to step back and perhaps do a little coasting. But always remember, when you coast, you always are going downhill. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're continuing to improve. Sometimes if a team is relatively new, they can drift. They're unsure of what they should be doing. They don't have that confidence as a team as a whole, or confidence and trust within their team members. Sometimes team members can feel isolated. That goes to sometimes as you're picking up on some of your housekeeping. Is everybody participating? Is everybody's ideas being heard? To the major success being achieved, sometimes teams will have a one and done mentality. Oh, got one, done one, check it off, let's move on, I'm on to my next team. If there's clear direction or not clear direction from management, if that's missing, sometimes teams can drift. So you're meeting and you're not really, making progress. So doing some of those housekeeping meetings, you can see, what's missing, and making sure that you're connected to your organizational objectives and utilize your management champion to help you out. And lastly, if the team has had the counter to having successes, they've tried some things and they haven't worked out and they're a bit demoralized or stuck and not knowing what to do next, that team can drift. So you went from having a very effective team to one that's is stuck and is not making, positive progress. So what are the strategies if teams begin to drift? As you progress towards your goals, you got to look at what rewards perhaps that the team needs based on the accomplishments of everyone. What have you achieved and what rewards, should be given to the various team members. Engage your management champion. If the issue with the team drifting is that they're not sure of what direction the organizational wants them to take, perhaps they can pull upon their management champion to explain what the big picture is. The management champion can come in and help coach the team. Keep management informed of the team's activities, publishing their agendas and their minutes, which will help them connect to their champion, which will allow the champion then to help connect with the larger organization. Solicit feedback perhaps from your management champion. What is he hearing or she hearing outside of the team that can help the team itself be more effective? And then lastly, discussing unresolved team issues, and those can be related to the behaviors you set up, challenges of trying to achieve goals and being unsuccessful at them. So we encourage you very much that once you have that management champion, use that person, he or she, to help the team build a stronger team. And then lastly, we have 2 tools for you on conducting team and management champion surveys. Back in characteristic 2, I believe it was, we came up with a list of items that the team needs from the management champion and the management champion needs from the team. That was in characteristic 3. Characteristic 3. Okay. So if we go to page 14.
I'm on the right page?
Yes, you're on the right page. This is the one which is the team assessment of the management champion. And what you'll do is take your list of items that you had generated from characteristic 3. List those on the left-hand side of this form, and then have the team individually fill this out on how they feel their management champion is fulfilling what they'd asked for as far as support from he or she. And then you can either sum up the total and come up with a score, or go line by line and find out where the differences are. So as kind of an experiment on utilizing this tool, why don't we reflect on a management champion of a team that we're involved in, and maybe rate that management champion on a score of 1 to 10, being 1 being poor to 10 outstanding, on how they're doing against this support goal that we had set early on in characteristic 3.
So it's sort of theoretical because we don't have a management champion.
Yeah, well, just let's try using the tool. So we have some practice time on using the tool.
So you want us to just go down these
Yeah, let's go
categories?
down there. Setting a time to meet with the team and reviewing progress. Somebody, I believe that was you, Kristen, that said you'd like to have, or perhaps it was Becky, the green, yellow, red status. I think it was Becky.
Yeah, I think it might have been
Remember
Becky.
correctly. Yeah, I think that was Becky.
Kristen's is patience. I know that one.
Have patience.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go to Kristen since she's participating here? Have
Sure.
patience with the team. You expect the support the team feels the management champion should be providing. Having patience with the team.
I would put a 7.
A 7?
Mhm.
Okay.
You're lucky.
So,
You want to
I
use
think-
your check marks to annotate that, Jane?
oh, of course I do, Kathy. Why
Okay.
wouldn't I?
You love those annotations.
What did I give you? Are you the X mark? What are you, the X? Kristen, were you the X?
Oh, I don't know.
7, sorry. 7.
Well, that comes up as a 9. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we just have Kristen do these 6? Or actually, I think I can scroll down. I can't scroll down.
All right. These are tiny on my phone, so let me just look at this.
Yeah, we only had 6 there. So. Okay, take this 7 and put it up in the patience. Yeah.
Have a little patience, Kathy. I'm doing the best I
Hey,
can.
what can I say? You'll put me in the waiting room if I'm not good.
So how about number 1, Kristen?
A 4.
Okay. Okay, spending time in number 3, time in classes.
10.
Productivity temperature. I know this wasn't yours, it was Randolph's, but how did they do on giving you some data?
6.
Publicizing the team's accomplishments.
6.
Be there for us when we need them. Be available.
5.
Okay. Edwin, you want to give your ratings here? Your management champion.
You're on mute, Edwin.
There you go. I say 5, number 1.
Patience.
4.
Spending time in training, allowing people to be in training classes.
I say 8.
Giving data on comparison and just providing understandable data of how we're doing compared to past periods.
7.
Publicizing the team's accomplishments.
6.
Being there for when we need them. Being available.
7.
You want us to do it as well, Henry?
Sure. Only because, why not?
Yeah, why not?
All right,
Who's going?
I'll go. So setting a time to meet with team, and I'll go with 6. That was the middle finger. Right? I'll go with the heart. Have patience. 5. Okay, time spent in training, that's going to be an 8. Productivity temperature, that's going to be an 8. Publicize the team's accomplishments, be the cheerleader, 5. To be there when we need them, 5.
Okay. Kathy is the arrow.
Okay. And I would say setting a time to meet with the team, 8. Having patience, 6.
It's like a bingo card now.
Yeah, okaying time spent in training and classes. You give that an 8. Productivity temperature. I give that a 7. Publicizing team accomplishments. 6. And being there when we need him or her. I give that a 6.
Okay, and so then it's me. I'm the question mark. I feel like I'm playing Monopoly
Question
board.
mark, yeah.
Setting the time to review the team, meet with the team and review progress, I gave it a 2. Having patience, I gave it a 3. Okaying time spent in, I gave it a 10. Productivity versus past periods, I gave it an 8. Publicizing our accomplishments, I gave it a 2. And being there is a 2. So apparently I work for on a different team with a different management champion than you do.
Again, you can see these tools, when you get everyone's marks in here, it allows you to say, oh, you know, why do we see this big differences between it? And it certainly provides a discussion with a management champion of how well the team is being supported. Okay. Some people feel that the management champion has little patience. Some are more on the high side. From number 3, it seems like as you give feedback to your management champion, you can say, well, you know, hey, the team, you know, giving the management champion some kudos, you know, the team feels like you're allowing them time to train and take classes and improve their skill base. So you can use this as a great tool to have that sit-down meeting with the management champion. Now, prior to that, you want to kind of come to an agreement within your team, but you can see the disparities of some of the ratings, which incites the discussion. I mean, Jane feels that her team champion is not publicizing the accomplishments, and everyone else is kind of in the lukewarm zone. So sometimes it's a team awareness for the champion too. They didn't realize that they weren't publicizing the accomplishments. It wasn't their intention. And then they can chart their actions to help the team be better and to be better recognized. So it's a great tool to use. One in your arsenal, be sure to utilize. Now on the next sheet, and this is one that we really can't do. This is the flip side of that. This is where the champion expects what the champion expects from the team. And that would be on page 15. So
We actually did this. We did create those 6 categories because I think it was Becky and maybe even Kristen thought that they were both champion and team members. So I think we can put our champion hat on and rate this if you want.
I think we can do that.
but we have time to do it. Okay, so this one, like I said, is the flip side of it, is how things that the management champion feels the team should be providing. So do we want to do a round robin on this and kind of rate ourselves as management champions for teams?
Sure.
So not do it individually, have just a different methodology because we would only be one person. So provide data tracking. 5.
And maybe by the accomplishments, was this wrapped around the team achieving their goals and providing the management champion factual data?
So that they're feeding up data to the champion. And Edwin thinks it's a 5. I think it's higher. I think we're providing data in our theoretical team. Kristen,
Let's do A then.
what do you think, Kristen?
Probably a 5.
Okay. So you don't think we're providing data?
Data.
Okay. Sticking to a schedule, the management team is asking us to stick to the schedule that we set out, like when we got into category 3, when we created our mission essential task lists and working to that. How do you think the team's doing, management champion? You two come to a discussion and agreement here.
8.
Yeah, 8.
Being accountable, showing the metrics to demonstrate the progress.
7.
Edwin?
1 and 3 are very similar there, kind of in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe a 6.
Yeah.
coming up with ideas, that they're generating a lot of creative ideas, that you feel the team's doing that, management champion, Edwin?
I say 6.
Kristen probably has more ideas. Right? Wasn't that one of your strengths, coming up with creative ideas?
I was open to them. I don't know that I come up with them.
So are you okay with the 6?
Yeah, 6 is great.
Are we asking if we don't know? Does the management team feel like we're champion? Feel that we're bringing questions forward?
10.
Yeah.
10?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's not quite in the right spot, but you know. Is the team telling you, management champion, that when they want to celebrate success?
8.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So basically, it looks like the only thing the management champion would be tasking the team to do better on is providing some data. So, excellent.
And, you know, this is an excellent opportunity as the management champion rates the team that, you know, on some kudos to the team as, you know, doing things like asking when they get stuck or they see their team drifting, or, you know, getting feedback to celebrate. Seems like the management champion feels the team is doing that so that they can do a proper job of celebration with their team. So it's a two-way street.
Good. Clear.
That's the presentation.
Okay, now do we want to stop there because we've got tomorrow to finish up some of the decision making?
Yes.
And then I think the last characteristic is really kind of I think we should do prior to wrapping up the class. What's your thoughts, Henry and Jane?
Oopsie. Sorry. Just making sure everyone's awake. That's like my break whistle.
Yeah.
I think you know, it's a little short today. You know, we've only been at it for about an hour and a half because we started a little bit late, but I think this is a good breaking point because I don't know if I shared, but Randolph and Becky are both going to try to watch the recording this afternoon and be able to join us tomorrow. So I think they'll be with us tomorrow, you know, if their schedules allow. So I think this is a good break point, and then tomorrow we'll wrap up those 2 exercises from decision making and then do characteristic 9 and the wrap up.
Great.
Everyone agreed?
Okay. Have a great afternoon, you guys. Good night. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for
Thank you,
everything.
you too.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you tomorrow.
See you
Any
tomorrow.
questions on the Massachusetts Training Exchange, please don't hesitate to reach out, okay?
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Take care.
Have a good one, everybody.
Have a good one. Bye.
Nice afternoon. Oh, there.
I got a lot of improvement notes for today.
I thought that went much better than yesterday.
I thought it went really well, but I have I think I have a lot of notes that I took about improving our materials.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, I think I wrote down some of the stuff so we can compare notes here. I thought the suggestion on removing some of that animation from the slides, and it's more of a fill in the blanks for them.
Yeah, definitely. But how do you do that if you share it electronically? How do you do that?
You have to have 2
separate presentations, like we have the 2 handouts for facilitator and participant.
Student guide.
Oh, wait, let me stop recording.
Ooh.
How do you do that?
I go down to record, and where it says stop recording.
A little pop-up comes up, I think it's a stop recording.
Oh, yeah, it's on my more.